welcome to this episode of Splash 2024 BDA podcast. I am your host, Greg Beaton, with my co-host,
Ashwin, Manthena.
And our special guest today,
Adrian Griffin from Subaru of America.
Hi, Adrian. How are you today?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great. Enjoying Splash. Are you?
Yes. To me, it's a nice opportunity, one, to see some of the things that OneStream is doing with the product, and also sort of catching up with, in our case, we work with you guys as, partners, right. An opportunity to sort of chat and stuff like that in a more casual setting.
Absolutely. So what's your role in OneStream at Subaru?
I'm the financial systems manager, so typically in the accounting and finance area, I'm supporting the OneStream application. I also do some little support on the Oracle financials area, so a little bit of both from that perspective. Any of the technical stuff on the Oracle financial side, the IT team handles, but some of the more generic stuff I get involved in that, but predominantly like an administrator role on the OneStream side.
Right. So we've heard a lot of great things at Splash today. The keynote from Tom and everyone today was great. As an administrator and a customer of OneStream, what excites you the most that you've heard today?
Well, I guess the thing that surprised me was the number of new products or new functionality that, when the number 12 came up right at the beginning, I initially wasn't too sure how to interpret that, and then all of a sudden it became 12 new, whether they're not necessarily brand new things, but they're enhancements, or they're taking some of their processes to the next level and stuff like that. So to me, that was probably the biggest take from today's session.
Right.
So. Which one of the 12 excited you the most?
A tough question, because we're fairly early on our OneStream journey, and to me, a lot of that stuff is down the road, to me, in terms of tremendous functionality, tapping into the AI and stuff like that. Like, I see the potential of all of that stuff, but it's a situation, in our case, we're probably in the crawling to walk stage, and to me, that's where you're running. It's going to take us a little while to get there, but to me, it's sort of exciting to basically see the potential in terms of, it's not a situation where we've implemented consolidations and we're done.
Right.
It, to me, is just a stepping stone in terms of, hey, there's an awful lot more things that we can do with this. We're doing the basics with it right now, but looking forward to a point where we're doing more, high level stuff with it and really tapping into some of the functionality that AI is going to provide.
It's interesting that you say at Subaru that you want to walk before you can run, or crawl, even if you say that. I've noticed the evolution. So I think I met you about a year ago.
Yes.
And you had previously implemented consolidations.
Right.
And we were working on a RevRec solution, talking about an incentive solution. We're talking about a planning solution. And when I first came in and looked at your consolidations, it didn't strike me as you guys had fully bought in on OneStream, right? They were using it, but they weren't using it fully. And now, a year later, I was talking to some of your peers last night, and they were going on and on about how much it's helped their life, how their reporting is better, how their job is easier to do.
Right.
Can you talk about that a bit?
Right. Well, and it's probably the traditional problem that I think you always run into in implementations. It's a wonderful product, and it does an awful lot for the users. But from the user's perspective, it's a change from what they're used to, and from that standpoint of view, it takes a little while. One of the things, and I was aware of it as part of it, like it was discussed, but I guess I probably trying to get them engaged as early as possible and as frequently as possible. We probably could have done a better job in that particular area. Like, from my perspective, I drank the Kool-Aid fairly early, and I saw what it could do, and I thought the users, they just had to see it, and it would be the same thing.
Sure.
Not quite. It seems like from their perspective, the wanting to accept the change from what they were doing is tough to overcome. But I think now we are getting to that point. I've had situations where, I've been able to show users and stuff like that. Like one of the things that they still ask me about it, but I've tried to teach them. There's a desire in terms of, I see a parent account in a report and stuff like that. What goes into that? Right. And that was always something, well, I need to ask Adrian what goes into that because I have no idea how that report was defined and stuff like that. Well, now I basically say, well, just, go drill on it, right, and then it will show you the accounts that make that up. And a lot of times that's sort of eye-opening from their perspective that they're actually able to answer a question themselves that they've never been able to answer. So it's things like that all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, and I was like, wow, I can do and be more self-sufficient in this system as opposed to always depending on a technical resource or a more technical resource to try and answer those questions.
We've heard that theme from quite a few people that we've been talking to today, the theme of self-sufficiency. It used to be, like you said, go ask someone for that number.
Right.
And these tools have made it self-sufficient, as we know who understand these tools for a while now. But one of the newest things that I heard coming out of the Visionary keynote today was they're going to have almost an AI you can talk to that you can ask them what your numbers are. And I remember when I was in finance and all the time my CFO would ask me numbers. That'd be great, right, if the users can just ask the computer themselves.
Absolutely. And, and I think, we're slowly getting to that point with systems where the users are realizing that they don't have to be as technical as they think they need to be to basically do some of that stuff. We're getting to the point where these systems are enabling more of that stuff. One of the things, I noticed in quite a lot of things with the keynote, and one of the things they stress is the transparency and auditability in terms of what's going on. And it seems like we're trying to move away from the black box concept in terms of, hey, something happens here, and it gives me a result, but I really don't know how I got there. And it seems like there's been a tremendous amount of focus in terms of bringing that out into the open. Right. And, especially with AI, it's going to do things, and you may not necessarily understand all the things that it does, but if it gives you the transparency in terms of how it got there, I think that will allow users to start accepting the information. I think there's still going to be a bit of a hesitancy in terms of, hey, this automated system came up with something. How can I trust it? And what are some of the things that,
It's true. We see that a lot. And what I find interesting about that, people trusted their Excel models, which were not verified. And the one on my desk might be different than the one on your desk. Where now we've implemented systems, which take a lot of time and money to implement, but the numbers that come out of them have been vetted by all of us.
Right.
So it's just just basic makes sense that way. But change is hard.
Right. And I think it comes down to that. It's one of those things that, users have been working with Excel and stuff like that. And obviously they love the flexibility in terms of, hey, I can put anything wherever I want it. They're probably less worried about, well, you're not vetting some of the stuff. You're just, assuming that it's good. And I often find it ironic that there's a high trust level with data in a spreadsheet. There's a less trust level in terms of coming out of the system. Well, it's like, well, I don't know where that information came from. I was like, but you trust what's in a spreadsheet, as gospel.
It's an interesting take, and I think it comes down to like the familiarity concepts, right? Like once you get familiar with the tool, it kind of becomes your friend a bit.
Yes.
And you feel like I trust my friend, and it's kind of that relationship.
Exactly.
Which seems like Subaru has gone through that evolution with OneStream and has gotten to that aspect of the tool. So
right.
That's interesting to learn that. Yeah. I'm really curious to hear, like, now that you've been through the OneStream journey, what do you have for the viewers out there, especially customers and admins in particular who are looking to implement OneStream? What would you kind of caution them or help
Well,
them?
and again, like I touched on it a little bit earlier, like one of the mistakes we made, and again, we did try and engage the users, but I felt we probably didn't engage them as fully as we should have. I remember that we went live with consolidations, and it was like not very many people were utilizing it and stuff like that. There was still, so from that standpoint of view, it was a little bit of anticlimactic in terms of that. But I think it's one of those things that we've slowly, gotten the people more engaged, and it just is a few situations where you can show them certain things. A lot of our users are still very much they love the Excel world. So it's the Excel add-in, a little bit I've sort of showed them how quick views work and stuff like that. And again, a nice utility for doing some ad hoc stuff. They're still stumbling with it, and there's a tendency, like they're afraid to break it, and they're afraid to try some stuff. So we're still working on trying to get over some of those hurdles. But I have been trying to push, and especially for the novice users, it's easier if I get you into the main application, the desktop one, rather than the Excel add-in. Right. But early on, all of our users, it was like, I just want the Excel add-in. Right. And, from that perspective, it's like, well, it's much easier if you get into the desktop application. You can open up a cube view and at least have a starting point. Right. With an Excel spreadsheet, it's a blank canvas, and you have to do certain things to even get anything coming back. So, I think I was finally able to start convincing them that, hey, let me spend some time in the desktop application as opposed to only wanting to be in the Excel add-in.
We do see that a lot.
So
one of the things that I've seen change at Subaru is I think your management has fully bought into OneStream now. So in understanding the tone at the top, I think the users will come in and quite like it, and because there is quite a roadmap for OneStream at Subaru.
There is, and from my perspective, I can probably see, at least for the next 3 years or so, there's so many things in terms of the marketplace solutions that make sense. Obviously, even some of the bigger ones with budgeting and planning. Right. We know that there's tremendous, benefits for leveraging something like that, really getting into, different scenarios and building models that sort of drive it. And, obviously we'll tap into some of the AI capabilities and stuff like that. But even, a lot of the things within the financial close process, like account reconciliation and transaction matching, that's something that, will provide, tremendous benefits for us. Right now we sort of deal with tax provisioning outside, again, something in Excel. And again, there's a marketplace solution associated with that. The other thing that interests me is leveraging some task manager functionality. Like we sort of go through a close process, but until it's done, I don't know that we necessarily know how far through the close process we are. It's a matter of walking around and talking to someone, okay, how many journal entries do you need to get in, or is this done? And we never are able to really quantify some of those things. And we really need to get to a point where, workday one, I can say we're 25% the way there. Right. Workday two, we've hit 50%. And basically know that the various steps that are part of that, we're quantifying it and we're actually seeing where we are. And early on, we will then know, hey, we're way behind. We need to do some things just to try and accelerate where we stand.
Right. So, I'm looking forward to bringing Subaru the BDA accordion rolling forecast. So I think that will be very good for you.
It will be. I think one of the things that we're struggling with a little bit is the and it's sort of a mind or shift change from we've always been on a single fiscal year in terms of, whatever periods are left. Like, so it could be a 6 and 6 months worth of actuals. Right. And then 6 planning.
Yep.
Right.
So, but, I do see the merits in terms of, hey, you need to be thinking a little bit further out than just whatever it takes you to the end of the fiscal year. So, but from a user perspective, that's another example of one of those things that is different. It's a big change, and it's just a matter of, the users, accepting it and realizing that, hey, there's tremendous upside in terms of thinking, 12 months out on a regular basis. And then a lot of that stuff then potentially helps in with the budgets that are done on a yearly basis. To a certain degree, you've already laid the groundwork for that information as part of your previous things that were rolling out into that next fiscal year.
It seems to be coming down to change management over and over and over again, right?
Yes.
Because yes, the process will be different. It won't be a budget and a forecast, but we will move them to more driver-based.
Right.
So in the long run, it should be easier for your users to strike the budget and more accurate.
Right. And to me, it's a matter of, I guess a lot of our users, I'd say, are experienced users, and sometimes there's a tendency, again, I've been doing something a certain way for a long period of time, and it has worked for me. Therefore, I'm a little bit hesitant to change that. So, but you're right. In terms of it really has to come from the top. In terms of hey, just because we've been doing something a certain way for the last 10 or 15 years, if it's not really the best way to do things, we need to sort of take a step back and try and embrace the change.
Well, if you've been doing it for 10, 15 years, the technology has changed too.
So, absolutely.
Right. Well, we're almost out of time. So we'll just leave with one more question. So if we're, to our viewers, if there's customers watching who have never implemented OneStream or are thinking about going for their first implementation, what advice could you give them, having been through it once yourself?
Try and engage your users as early on in the process as possible.
Right.
I think that of all the things that we probably didn't do as well, like the implementation from my perspective went very, very well.
Right.
It met the timelines and stuff like that. But it was just not a situation where as soon as we went live, the users were all in there and doing stuff. So that's probably the one thing. I thought our planning sessions and everything went well. It's just a matter of engaging them and figuring out a way to engage them. And it's always a balancing act in terms of they still have their responsibilities and stuff like that. And basically by pulling them into something they only have a tertiary responsibility, there's a tendency not to get involved. But to me, that's definitely, something that I feel it's just going to, increase the success, associated with it. And, I think OneStream in and of itself is a wonderful product. And, it's going to make the life of the accounting and finance group much, much easier. And, it's just a matter of, the users giving it an opportunity and willing to embrace the changes that come with it.
Well, thank you for your insights, Adrian, and I hope you have a wonderful splash.
No, thank you very much. Enjoy talking to you guys.
You too. Thanks,
Adrian.
Okay.